Hey guys, Luke here, and I think it's safe to say the dust has really settled on State of Origin. It's time to reflect, and it's probably the last video I really do on State of Origin 2020. Look, there's plenty of stuff you can talk about, but I feel like we're just dwelling on the past. It's already happened, and we just want to talk about some fresh topics. But I did say last week that I was going to do a video talking about New South Wales, kind of do a little bit of a rant video, going to be talking about, why New South Wales lost in my opinion. So that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. I don't feel like a lot of people are going to agree with me. Maybe some people will, maybe some people won't. But I'm not doing it to try and get people to agree with me. I'm just sort of venting. Venting's probably the word. I'm just going to be talking about my thoughts on this New South Wales side. Now, first off, I will say, straight up, you just got to hand it to Queensland. That was so much better than New South Wales the whole series. Now, obviously, Game 2 is a bit of a write-off, but in terms of Game 1, Game 3, definitely outclassed New South Wales by quite a margin. Despite the scoreline's probably not reflecting it, you could just tell the quality, the difference in quality between both of the sides. So New South Wales were kind of in it on the scoreline, but watching the game. Obviously, a lot of people look at stats and go, oh well, this guy looks pretty good because of stats and blah blah blah. Obviously, that doesn't reflect the game. So therefore, scorelines don't necessarily reflect the game. You can have a game that was super close. Say like the grand final. The grand final. Look, you look at the scoreline, you say Panthers very, very close to winning it. Realistically, Storm had it wrapped up within the first bloody 20 minutes. And look, everybody can see that from watching it, but the scoreline doesn't reflect it. And I think that's what State of Origin kind of was like. Queensland got the 2-1 win. Came down to the wire in the end. Came down to the last couple of minutes or whatever. But look, realistically, Queensland, they had the series. And the games that they did win, they won quite convincingly, in my opinion, despite the scoreline. So I'll get off the topic of that. But yeah, you guys like Cameron Munster and Cherry Evans and just guys like that, they really stood up, which is what New South Wales were lacking. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. So first off, wrote down some notes here. First thing that I wrote down was I thought there was a lack of coaching. Now, I think Brad Fittler has been coasting off the back of Queensland having a weak side. Now, a lot of the talk is that this year's Queensland side was the worst in history, all that sort of stuff. I don't know if I'd say it's the worst in history. I'd say it's definitely one of the worst in the most recent times. In terms of Cameron Smiths and Cooper Cronk, Billy Slaters, Thurston's, Lockyers, Hodges, Inglis, all those sort of guys, Falau's, even them. It definitely does not rank anywhere near that side. But the difference is I don't think New South Wales side also ranks near sort of the New South Wales sides of that era too. But I think the thing that was evident was that despite Queensland having a pretty poor squad, let's be real, the squad wasn't good. Like, when people say that this was the worst team in history or whatever, they're not that far wrong. They might not be completely on the money with it being the worst, but they're definitely not that far off it. Just like if you put them up against any of the sides that won that 8 in a row or whatever, you would think that team would wipe the floor with this current side. And that's just the facts of it. That's just the actual reality. I don't think many people will argue with that. I feel like if you had Cameron Smith, Lockyer, all them up against that, they would destroy them. The only ones who could probably make that side, realistically, are guys like Cameron Munster, maybe Cherry Evans couldn't get into the side when they were at their peak. So yeah, only really like Cameron Munster is a guy who could probably get into the side. Otherwise, everyone else wouldn't get anywhere near that side. In fact, some of the players who played for Queensland were literally like fringe first grade players in the NRL, let alone playing for Queensland. Difference is for Queensland, they step up. For New South Wales, they don't seem to. New South Wales had some of the best players. We saw they polled very, very well in the Dally M's. We saw them win it. We saw them come second and third. The difference is they can't make that jump from NRL to Origin level, where we've seen guys like Dan Gagai year after year maybe not show it in the NRL. Sam Thaiday, there's so many guys. Hodges was another one. No matter how they were playing in clubland, they'd go to Origin Arena and they'd absolutely excel and just destroy. And New South Wales don't have anyone who's capable of doing that. They went for a team of guys in form. I don't think they necessarily picked the best side possible, which was quite disappointing. But my first point was that I don't think the coaching was great. And I thought that was very, very evident this year when we actually had a proper good coach up against not a good coach. Now, in previous years, Brad Fittler, my point with where I was going with that was that he had a really good New South Wales side. He had Jimmy Maloney there to come in and steer the ship around. He had Cleary, who was a solid defender. And you just had a really good New South Wales spine. He had a really good New South Wales team in general. He's picking guys like Clemmer. He tried to drop him, but then he got injured. Players got injured. He ended up back in the side. That sort of stuff. And he was kind of forced into some selections that kind of worked in his favour, in my opinion. Now this year he got to pick the actual team he wanted. I don't think it was a great team, and he was coming up against a proper coach in Wayne Bennett. He wasn't coming up against Kevin Walters. Like, let's be real, Kevin Walters has never coached NRL. He's never really shown that he's like an excellent coach or anything, whereas Wayne Bennett has got countless years of being an excellent coach, an excellent tactician, a great man manager, which I feel like is quite important in State of Origin. Not going to have a hell of a lot of time to get these players doing set plays and doing all that sort of stuff. It's just a matter of getting them motivated and ready to go, and that's where I feel like Queensland had the advantage. Wayne Bennett, everyone talks about how good of a motivator he is, and as soon as he got named as the Queensland coach, I feel like New South Wales fans went from being like, yeah, this is a sure thing, to kind of having that little bit of doubt going, whoa, it is Wayne Bennett. He has been able to produce chicken salad out of chicken shit. So look, we know Wayne Bennett, we know what he can do, and he's done it year after year. So it definitely was it was a shock when we saw him go in there, but I think it was also a shock considering we knew we had Brad Fittler, whose biggest training methods are he gets him to train bare feet and that sort of stuff. Like, just weird methods that aren't really actual coaching. It's more like he gets them super relaxed, and it's like, do you want your players to actually be super relaxed for State of Origin? Because I'd rather see the team come out super amped up, ready to go, ready to just destroy is what I keep saying earlier. I'm ready to destroy, and that's what I feel like New South Wales aren't ready to do. And I feel like that's why he didn't pick a guy like Clemmer. I feel like he's the perfect person for Origin. You had a guy like Nathan Brown coming off the bench. Look, I don't want to say Origin's all about the grubs, but you got to have someone who can grub it up a little bit. They have a little bit of mongrel in them. A guy like Nathan Brown, I feel like he was the perfect guy for Origin. He was what Game 3 was calling out for New South Wales. And what did he get? Like 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, something like that. Just absolutely ridiculous. And when I talk about the bench, I feel like the actual bench rotation, I feel like it was just off all game. And that sort of goes back to Fittler not being an actual good coach, in my opinion. And look, we saw that when he tried to coach the Roosters. Look, his own like club, like the Roosters, they actually sacked Brad Fittler. Like, I think that really says it all. And look, this is the Roosters who came last under him. How many times have you seen the Roosters come last? If they even have a bad season, look, I remember Robinson had like one bad season where like half the side was injured, and they were like, if he has another bad season, he's gone. So it doesn't take much, it does take a lot for them to sack him, because Roosters aren't used to having bad seasons. So look, the fact that Fittler got sacked from an NRL club like the Roosters, I think it really says a lot about his coaching ability. But like I said, he was piggybacking off the fact that we had a really good side. Tedesco was in form last year. He had guys like Ferguson killing it. Rather than his own coaching ability. I think that really got exposed there. I don't know, I feel like I should rename this video why I don't think Brad Fittler's a good coach, but look, let's talk about other ones, selections. The centres, I feel like were a problem right from game one, never really got addressed at all. In fact, I feel like the best we looked in any of the games, not any of the games, but in terms of game 3, the best we looked was when Jack Whiten got taken out of the centres. So you got the guy who won the Dally M, got 5'8" of the year. He won the actual Dally M medal itself. He won the Clive Churchill at 5'8" last year in a losing side. Look, we know Jack Whiten's a fantastic 5'8", yet they won't put him in there because they're like, oh well, we've got to fit all these good players in. Let's chuck him in the centres. Like, no, Jack Whiten has not. This isn't the same. This isn't the same as previous years. Like, if you chuck Latrell Mitchell in there, like, oh, you can say he's a fullback, but like we know he's very, very capable of playing centre. In fact, he's a centre. Tom Trbojevic has played a lot of wing, and of recent years, like he plays fullback, so he's there, organised in the line. You can probably slot him in at centre. He's just that naturally good. Where Jack Whiten, I feel like we could have used his big body, it would have been very, very useful in game 3, even just in terms of barging their way over, in terms of Origin being such a physical game. And yeah, I feel like that's when New South Wales kind of lost the game. I feel like just the physicality from Queensland in the end really got to them. I feel like in game 2 they were all over Queensland. New South Wales just moving forward. Damien Cook was able to play off the back of it, Nathan Cleary as well. But yeah, game 3, game 1, it just was never really there. And I was talking about them picking players who are in form, but then it kind of goes against it too, because they pick a guy who, like Cody Walker, who's in form, and you Daniel Tupou and that sort of stuff, but then they'll go and pick a guy like Tyson Frizzell, who year in, year out is there, no matter how shit the Dragons are going, even in terms of himself. It's not like Tyson Frizzell setting the world alight, and I thought he was really sort of just a pedestrian in this Origin series. It's just it's a very frustrating performance from the forwards because we saw in game 2 what they're capable of, but they just weren't able to put it together. And I put it down to passion. They just lacked that passion, and that's what Queensland's got. You got your Josh Papalis and all the other players, all the youngsters. They're young and hungry, and especially when you had the media constantly being like, yeah, this is a shit Queensland side. So obviously, backs against the wall, they're going to play above their ability. They're going to be super motivated. They're going to be raring to go. And that's what New South Wales didn't have. Just the lack of passion was absolutely astonishing to me. And I feel like it comes down to Brad Fittler getting them so relaxed. Like, the whole thing is he wants them relaxed and all that sort of stuff for a big Origin game where they're going to be belting each other for 80 minutes. It doesn't make any sense to me. And look, it goes back to Clemmer. I feel like Clemmer should have been there. 100% should have been there. He's a guy who every year I feel like steps up in State of Origin, yet he's found himself dropped, and getting dropped for a guy like Junior Polo. I feel like Junior Polo did absolutely nothing this Origin series. He plays in an Eel side, and I feel like it was kind of like Gutherson as well. The Eels are a side, when things are going good, they're going good. They can beat those bottom 8 sides, but when they come up against the top sides, they crumble. And that's essentially what kind of happened with State of Origin. When those same Eels guys come up against a good side, they crumbled. They're just in different colours this time. I thought Junior Polo lacked a lot. I feel like Payne Haas was hot and cold. It was just very hot and cold performance. I thought Safidi was pretty solid. But yeah, the forward pack, it was very mixed. They weren't very solid. And I feel like that's what New South Wales went for. They went for kind of the solid players rather than the impactful, passionate players that we've gone for in the past, like your Clemens and that, who've done a solid job for us. And essentially, I just don't think there are enough players who are bending the line, who are running hard. You look at Payne Haas' stats. I know I was just talking about how stats don't mean everything, but I know New South Wales did a lot of defence and all that sort of stuff, but I'm pretty sure Payne Haas, he had like stupid stats for a forward in terms of running meters. I think they were super low, and he's just starting prop. Like, it can't be happening like that. It just can't be. It can't be happening. And it's not like New South Wales got dominated right from the start. Like, they had a point where they're like 6-all. They did get some possession, but yeah, it's like, what are you doing? Where are our forwards stepping up? It just didn't happen. So I feel like a lot of the backs have got a lot of flack in this, but and also in particular the halves copped a lot of flack. Cody Walker, Nathan Cleary. Look, they weren't fantastic, but I thought they had a pretty solid series in comparison to previous years and that. But yeah, the forwards really didn't step up, and they got dominated by not even rookies, but just some sort of average sort of NRL players. Tino is going to be a superstar in the future, but you wouldn't say he's a superstar right now. And I feel like he carved up New South Wales. He had other players who were in similar positions, like you had Anamus Louis and that, guys who are like bench players at their club and go on and play Origin and play pretty well. But that just shows you, like, I feel like New South Wales, with all of the hype, all of their like superstar status, should have been just rolling over the top of them. The forward pack shouldn't have been able to compete with them, and they were, which is what's quite disappointing. And once again, it goes back to, I feel like there just wasn't enough passion in the side. Then you add in the whole bench rotation. I kind of touched on it earlier with Nathan Brown in terms of him getting limited minutes, and you have a guy like him on there. But also just the bench rotation in general was not good. They got away with it in game 2 because there wasn't really any injuries, and also they were just so far in front that, like, if injuries had happened, they got away with it. Whereas I feel like the bench rotation in game 1 wasn't great. Look, you had Cody Walker on there, but no real role for him. I think he ended up coming on anyways. I think, was there an injury? I can't remember. Yeah, I think there was an injury maybe. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, game 3, that game was calling out for Ryan Pappenhausen to be on there. And the fact that Brad Fittler's come on and said, yeah, no regrets over the bench. It's like, come on, man, just admit you got it wrong. Like, you should have had Pappenhausen there. Like, the game needed him. New South Wales needed him for sure, especially when Tedesco went off. I feel like it's easy to say in hindsight, oh yeah, we should have had a fullback on the bench. But no, Pappenhausen has played that role perfectly before for the Storm, and we've seen Storm just literally won the premiership. He got the call up Churchill. You want to talk about picking players in form? Ryan Pappenhausen should have been there. He should have been on the bench, could have come on, and could have kind of did what Queensland did with Ben Hunt in the previous game, and what they've kind of done in previous years as well. Just chuck them in the forwards. Pappenhausen's able to do it. Just run, go on there and just roam around and try and cause havoc. That's literally it. And then if Tedesco went down injured, which is what happened, then he could have come on there. So it's just, that's what kind of it all comes down to. I feel like I said, this whole video could be why Brad Fittler was a bad coach for New South Wales, but well, I don't know. He's had some success, but like I said, I feel like that success, everyone's going to point to the success and say, yeah, well, he coached the last 2 years, they won that one, and this is the first one he's lost. But look, I feel like he was just the name there. He doesn't really do too much coaching. He's just another legend who's got his name as the coach and doesn't really do too much. And the stuff he does, I feel like, is detrimental to the side. And I feel like all these media guys like your Andrew Johnson, that I feel like if you actually made them the coach in New South Wales, you're going to end up with guys like Bryce Cartwright playing every flavour of the month. For ages, it looked like Mitchell Moses was going to get picked for New South Wales, and I feel like a couple of injuries happened, and I feel like that's the only thing that stopped him. Like, it's just, you end up with the same players. They pick flavours of the month because I don't think they are actual coaches. They're not really good coaches or anything. I don't know exactly where I'm going with this, but yeah, at the end of the day, I really don't rate Brad Fittler as a coach. Fantastic player, but not every player makes a good coach, and I feel like that's very evident with him up against Wayne Bennett. And obviously, Wayne Bennett was actually a player, but look, just different apples and oranges. Wayne Bennett's been around for 30 years, whatever, coaching, and he's got all of the credentials behind him. Whereas Fittler, the only credentials he had in terms of coaching was he did a little bit of city country, whatever, and he also coached the Roosters, where he got the wooden spoon and he was sacked at the Roosters, which. This is the Roosters. They don't get the wooden spoon. And now, guys, leave in the comment section below, what do you think the problem was in New South Wales? Why did they lose? Was it just Queensland were too good? I don't think that's the reason. It kind of is the reason. Like, Queensland were better, but in the sense that I feel like New South Wales had a bigger pool to pick from and better pool to pick from, and still lost pretty convincingly. So yeah, leave in the comment section below. Do you think it's the coaching? What do you think the actual problem is for New South Wales? Also, while you're at it, if you did happen to enjoy this video, make sure you go ahead and smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Also, make sure to turn on the notification bells. It is quite important. Let you be notified when I upload immediately, so go ahead and do that. Also, give me a follow on social media. It's on the screen right now, Mr. Luke on YT. And then also we have my Snapchat as well, as the same as that. But my Facebook is Mr. Luke. Probably post some links onto that. Probably going to be streaming on Twitch a little bit. I think it's in the description below as well. So I think it's Mr. Luke Stream, something along the lines of that. Go in the description below and you'll be able to find it. Anyway, guys, so I'm going to wrap up the video. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for more content on the channel. I'll see you then. Bye, guys.